Hello love lovers, hey everyone. Before we start, I would like to remind you guys that Venus is retrograde, and because Venus is retrograde, if you are a Virgo ascendant, Pisces ascendant, Leo, Aquarius, Taurus and Scorpio ascendant, I'd like you to take a pause, right? Just take a pause, take your phone, text your person, text them a nice message, say something nice, just remind them maybe of, how you feel about them, your love, right? And if you are Scorpio, if you're a Scorpio ascendant and you've recently had a break, you've recently broken up, you can text them. Just text them, say sorry, apologize, just give a word out, right? And if you're a Taurus ascendant, similar thing. If you've recently had a disagreement, argument, just apologize and be on the calm. So that's your work for this moment, right? Other than that, everybody else, welcome. We're talking about race and interracial dating, mixed race marriages, dating out of your race, out of your culture, out of your religion, out of your nationality, out of your what else is there, out of your tradition, right? So we're talking about that today. We're looking at the aspect that will indicate that at some point in your life you will be romantically linked to somebody who is not of your origin. Let's go. So if your Venus is in a dual sign, you are definitely destined to experience a love situation at least once in your lifetime that is of interracial, mixed, interreligion, all of that, right? If your Venus is in Gemini is always is always everywhere, right? Duality, adapting, just like a sponge. So if your Venus is in Gemini, if your Venus is in Virgo, because remember Virgo is a dual sign. If your Venus is in Leo, because Leo is facing towards the Aquarius sign, which is of conventionality, things that are out of the norm, originality and all of that. And of course, if Venus is in Aquarius, right, and if your Venus is in Sagittarius, you would, and finally the Pisces sign, because Pisces is also a dual sign. So these 6 signs, if your Venus, you find it in any of these 6 signs, then in your lifetime you ought to experience a mixed situation, mixed race, mixed culture, mixed tradition, just out of your norm, right? And another aspect that you should look for is when your Venus is with her Rahu here, definite, because Rahu is representing things that are out of the norm, foreign things that are not regular, to your society. So definitely Rahu and Venus in a conjunction, that's a given. And another one, if your 7th lord, right, that is the ruler of your 7th house, is conjunct with Rahu wherever it's sitting, this is another indication for me that you ought to be also considering people that are different from you. If your Venus is in the 9th house, here it's telling me, first of all, that your relationship is destined to have some distance to it, some foreign influence, or even if you are of the same even if you're of the same background when it's in the 9th house, but then you would tend to travel to this person, so they would be a bit further away from you. Maybe they move into another region, even if you know that you're the same, but then they move to another region, or you have to move and cross a border to be with them, right? Same thing as Venus in the 12th house. You could be the same way, like the same background, same race, same beliefs, but then you would have to travel, you know, if they are, you know, if you remain the same, you have to travel to them. You have to leave your country, you have to leave your state, you have to leave your region to be with your love, or they have to come to you, right? So these are the indications that, you know, when you look at the chart, you can just simply see, oh my gosh, this person is supposed to be looking outside of their race, outside of their comfort zone. So why then do people do not date outside of their norm, outside of their culture, tradition, background, nationality? When there's, you know, an affliction obviously to Venus, so maybe your Venus is retrograde, then, you know, you could be dabbling, like having doubts, having insecurities, or being afraid or fearful, right? So maybe it's retrograde and it's with the Rahu. Definitely here it could come up as a paranoia of what will people say if you date out of your out of your culture, out of your race, you know. So there would be some fear that comes out, which maybe makes you hesitant from taking the step, you know, into dating somebody who's different from you. There could also be obviously other afflictions with Saturn, because Saturn is limitations. So maybe due to a social class, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot, I'm too rich, you know, to date this person. They too poor. I just can't be seen with this person. My family will never accept, because remember, Saturn is about tradition as well, like old things, old ways of doing things. So some people can be hesitant due to their Saturn afflicting Venus in this instant, even if it's in the dual signs and everything. But if Saturn is binding without boundary, setting a limit and making the person be doubtful, be scared, you know, to say, oh my gosh, I'm gonna shame my family, oh my gosh, you know. Yeah, so here you can find people holding themselves back from finding the love that they are destined for, right? Which is a bit sad, really. It's a bit sad. I mean, when it comes to love, and when it comes to like obviously when we talk about love, we talk about like agreeable love, like people are consenting and all of that, like there's nothing criminal, right? I really like encourage people to follow their chart, to align with their chart, like to not be afraid of what the society will say, of what your neighbors will say. Because as soon as you align with your chart, then things will start to move easier for you in your life, and your karmic rewards or obligations will start to be served in that regard, right? But again, it's your chart, right? So it means that you're hesitant due to a certain aspect in your chart. And then in this case, it gets triggered or it gets released when there's a certain transit, when there's a certain progression. Even if you have to get married, like a simple thing like marriage, it like you could have this perfect Venus in, let's say Venus in Virgo, right? But then you're not finding somebody who's different from you, and then you're like, okay, but Mita, I have this Venus but nothing is happening, right? You have to obviously wait for something to trigger the Venus, for a transit or for a progression, or you know, for a synastry attachment of somebody to trigger your Venus into action, right? So everything is really designed with time. Nothing happens not everything happens in one in one time, like boof, right? Everything is triggered by transit. Every event of our life is triggered by a transit or a progression of our planet, right? So just to clarify about the Leo ascendant, it is also important to consider that the 5th house of romance and dating is of Sagittarius, right? Sagittarius is about foreign things and all of that, so that is another reason for the Leo ascendant to be in this mixed interracial, inter-tradition, intercultural situation in love, right? So just to remind everyone that I don't mean to offend anyone about these stories that I'm going to talk about, because I know race is sensitive for a lot of people around the country, or around the world, and it's a sensitive subject for a lot of people. So I'm just take it as an open mind type of a discussion, whereby this is necessary to talk about because of the the aspects that we're discussing today. And just to remind everyone, of course, that I myself am in a mixed race relationship. So I don't, like, my spouse is Caucasian, as I already said. My children are biracial, so I literally have no ill thought or I don't know, like a bad feeling towards anyone. Love is love, in my opinion, and we're just following our charts, right? Aligning ourselves with our charts. So now we're going to get into these stories to show how these aspects work in real time, right? Now as I placed on the cover, there's the Harry and Meghan, and there's this guy Telvin, right, who was deleted by his wife Hannah. It's a big story right now in America, like all the African Americans, not all of you guys, like like most of the African Americans on social media, they talking about this story like against this Telvin guy, because of what he had said. Basically, he had said that he could never date a black girl, which for me is an African girl, right? He would never date an African girl, like an African American girl. He would rather date a dog, right? And then even the dog would have to be like white, which is like Caucasian, right? So a lot of people are like, oh, look at him now. He got deleted by his Caucasian wife, and we can't be getting involved. We don't care, blah blah blah, right? So when you remove the race part, then you will see, or you would, okay, sorry guys, like, just don't be mad, don't be upset, but what I'm gonna say here is not trying to offend anyone or trying to upset anyone, but I'm just literally making a general observation just about love in general. Like, if you remove the race part and you substitute it with, let's say, fitness, right? So if he had written, I would never date an unfit woman. I'd rather date a dog, or I'd rather date a horse, instead of being in love with a woman who's not healthy, right? Like an unhealthy woman, right? There wouldn't be a whole lot of this rage, right? It's literally something that almost all partners do. Almost all men, when they want to make their woman feel comfortable and feel secured, they say what they think would make the spouse feel comfortable. In my mind, I just thought that maybe he was caught flirting with an African American woman, And then Alison was like, oh, why are you checking it? Why you checking her out? Am I not enough for you? Da da da. And then, you know, he had to make his statement, a public statement, that no, I'm all for Caucasians, you know, to make, you know, the wife comfortable. Because this is the nature of men. That's what men would say, you know. Like a man would be like, oh no, I don't date big girls. I will never date a big girl. I will never leave you for a big girl. And then next thing, what? They cheat with a big girl, with somebody exactly who they say they would never date. So they make this public statement to make the partner feel comfortable. So this is how I saw it. I didn't see, you know, a certain statement that he hates African Americans. I mean, he's coming from a family. He's got sisters, which he posted many times on his Facebook, who are African American. So if he was embarrassed of his, you know, African American Americanism, I don't think that he would be posting his friends who are African American, who's his family. For me, I just thought of it as a reassurance to the Caucasian wife that, you know, I prefer you, you know, I'm not going to cheat on you with an African American girl. Maybe I'm around them a lot of times, but you my choice, you my first choice, you my preference, right? So, but of course, you know, people are taking it, you know, in the way that they see it, obviously from their perspectives, and everybody is allowed to have an opinion at the end of the day, right? But it reminded me of the same thing with Harry and Meghan, because, you know, Meghan said there was racism, and, you know, Caucasians felt like, you know, Prince Harry is choosing somebody who's different from him, and is against the royal culture, royal tradition, right? So it's in both ways, like, you know, both groups or all groups, they feel like they lose their person when their person chooses somebody who's different from them. And by the way, Prince Harry has a Venus in Virgo. Remember, I'm using sidereal. He has a Venus in Virgo, dual sign. Of course, he was destined to have, you know, this girl who's a bit eccentric, who's a bit different, you know, race, culture, and even nationality in their case, proving the point. And on top of that, his Venus is trine with his Rahu, which just, you know, confirmed in his case that he was meant to date out of his situation, like his background and everything, right? You can also see that the Venus is with Chiron, which is wounding, which is pain, and also Moon. So in his case, you know, the Venus, the spouse, Meghan, is experiencing pain, or he himself is experiencing pain and wounding and disappointment, because now he's got this spouse. However, it's also with Moon, which is intertwined to the you know, how he says he doesn't want his wife to experience what his mother went through, and the spouse is going through the same pain that the mother went through, the humiliation, the media, people hating, and, you know, the anemic relationship between her and, you know, his family. You know, it's all in the story, it's all in the chart, it's all written, pre-written, and, you know, the chart is just playing out in real life, which is very sad, but it's always been expected from the chart point of view. So believe your chart, look at your chart, prepare yourself if you see things that are not kind, and, you know, equip yourself, do remedies if you can. Plus, it is in Taurus of family, and, you know, the scandals are literally around the family life, with his family, even with the mother. It was about family, the Taurus. So this is why I follow the Vedic part when I do ascendants, because it tells me where the story is happening. And you can see it's a Taurus sign, and it's about family, and their feud is between him and his family regarding his wife Venus and regarding his mother Moon. Right, so as you can see from his chart, what was already there when he was born is being played out in real life now as an adult as well. Right, he felt the pain, of course, with his mom passing. You can see the Chiron is literally here. So yeah, so when it comes to this guy Telvin, who's on the news right now, just passed away, was shot by his wife Hannah, who's Caucasian. He has a Venus and a Rahu conjunction, again just proving what I just said. Like you can check with a lot of people, they will have these aspects that I just told you. And if you look at your chart, maybe you also can confirm that you've dated out of your race, because that's what your chart says, right? Now, when it comes to the ascendants, ascendants who are always in the mixture, always dabbling in different love situations, you will almost always find these four people. Gemini everywhere, even gender-wise. Gemini is just fluid. Actually, a lot of Gemini people, male or female, have experienced some bisexual experiences in their life, because Gemini is adapting. It just adapts everything. It absorbs everything. It changes itself according to the environment. It's like a chameleon, it dates everyone. There is no filter to sense that this person is different from me. Gemini is elusive, just in the space of curiosity. And we have Sagittarius, of course, because Sagittarius is explorative, very open-minded, and of course a bit of a traveler, somebody who travels. They get exposed to a lot of different people, and they do want to experiment and explore, because Sagittarius learns by experience as well, to gain that higher wisdom, to gain that higher knowledge, that broad knowledge, and that philosophy. It comes from experience, from living the life. So Gemini, Sagittarius, these guys, they can confirm once in their life they've dabbled with a different spouse in terms of race, origins, tradition, or even gender altogether, right? And we have Aquarius and Leo as well, because Aquarius is also like that open-minded person who belongs to everyone in the society, who wants to be part of everyone in the society. And because of this notion of I am part of the society, they don't see themselves as different from other people. They just see themselves as part of the society. We all look alike, we're all the same, we all want the same goals or whatever, right? So Aquarius would also dabble in different love scenarios, and Leo, because it's influenced by the zone of the Aquarius, right? So these four ascendants, oh la la, they would give that. And then when you look at the duality of the ascendants, the Virgo and the Pisces, they also open-minded in terms of this, but particularly the Pisces, because the Pisces encompass everybody. The Pisces has everybody in them from all the signs, because this is the higher sign of everything that we have on earth, everything that we experience on earth. So a Pisces ascendant is also prone to dating outside of their situation, outside of their background, right? And Virgo is influenced obviously due to the opposite sign, but because also it's a dual sign, right? So these are the ascendants that would give the situation. I just want to quickly look at the chart of Telvin and see what was happening in his life, and also why, you know, he made those statements from now a synastry point of view, right? I'm sorry if I'm speaking too closely to the mic. You know, these are the things that unfortunately sometimes my mind doesn't give or doesn't pay attention to when I'm analyzing the chart and talking at the same time, and, you know, trying to look at what's happening with the chart. But in any case, Telvin was born on the 16th of December 1994. He's an American man, and he was married to Hannah Grace Cobb. I couldn't find any details about her chart, so I couldn't get into her chart. But from Telvin Osborne chart, I already said that, you know, he's got that Rahu and Venus. Now when you zone into the degrees, he's got a Venus at 17 degrees and a Rahu at 18 degrees, right? They are in conjunction, definitely. So here, of course, we have to also look at the lunar mentions, right? Because now this is the type of chart that I can get deeper in, because I don't have too much synastry analysis to do. So when I look at the degrees of his Venus and Rahu, what I pick up here is that he loved in a sacrificial manner. Like, he would do a whole lot of stuff for his partner, sacrifice himself, sacrifice his identity, sacrifice, you know, anything really, just to please this woman that he was with. And he would find some spiritual bondage in this relationship, right? Because of the degrees, not the sign, but because of the degrees here. More like, you know, he was giving most of his life, or most of his own happiness, to make the spouse happy. Now with this Rahu here, he was obsessed. He was very obsessed with a perfect love. Like, he wanted to be seen as having the best partner, the perfect partner, the perfect love that is above everybody else's love. So Rahu and Venus in these degrees in Libra for him made him want to have love that would give him popularity, love that would give him power, that would earn him respect in the society. So of course, you know, in America, or even in other countries really, like, Caucasians are taken to be, you know, the standard because of the economical histories and all of that, right? So for him, then he chose this partner, or he saw this Caucasian partner as the one that would give him this status that he's a Rahu 6 because of those degrees, right? And of course, due to the Rahu, of course, there would be scandals, and for him it's a huge scandal that is happening right now on social media and in the news, right? And it also says, obviously, Rahu and Venus, that there would be some rumors of cheatation, which I, you know, said maybe he just wanted to give assurance to his woman that, no, don't worry, I'm not going to date, or I'm not going to go back to dating, you know, African women, you know, if he's dated them before. So it was a matter of just, you know, no, I'm with you now, I've chosen you now, whatever, right? And now Venus and Rahu in Libra in these degrees, specifically 17 and 18 degrees, they make him equate love to ambition. So for him, being ambitious is based on the relationship that he has and the partner that he has, because remember, Libra is all about the partner, the partnership, the union and everything. So for him, the unionship was his status in the society, was a man of, you know, showing his power in the society, showing like that thing of respect me, I've got the best woman according to my eyes and whatever, right? So that was what's happening with all of this love situation and what he said according to this chart, right? And of course, Venus and Rahu, the partner would be different from him. She's Caucasian and he was an American African man. Now he's got a Chiron in Virgo dual sign. So here we saw him, he likes pets, dogs. He was always breeding dogs and all of that, because Chiron in Virgo wants to heal, and Chiron is the kind of like exalted in Virgo. This is the most comfortable of Chiron in Virgo, whereby it's healing, it's giving the healing, and that's what he was in. He was always around animals, breeding animals and all of that. But because of course it's a wounded healer, so maybe he could have obviously sold those dogs that he was breeding as well, kind of like making business out of it, which is the part of the wounding, but it's healing as well, because it's what breeding those dogs. Right now, what's needed to be seen here is that due to his sun, now he's got a sun in 0 degrees in Sagittarius. When sun is at 0 degrees like this, what's happening now, it's telling us that this person is bold. Like, their boldness, it is unmatched. They're not afraid of darkness, they're not afraid of controversy, they're not afraid of even chasing what they want by all means necessary, right? But at the same time, they have this tendency to want to protect what is his. Like, he would be like, I'm all in or nothing here. I'm just going to protect my woman, my love, my everything, right? And due to that fearless nature, it also makes the person be self-destructive, right? Like, have these tendencies that destroy themselves. And in his case, it was his image, because sun is our image, is our brightness, is how we shine in the society. And as we can see now, his name is being embroiled with a lot of controversy, which is not good for him, because people are shunning his light or him as a person, right? So on this day when he passed, there was a lot of stuff happening, which is a lot of all the time that I keep telling you guys, because remember I did that research where I had about 70 charts and I looked at why partners and spouses delete their partners. I wanted to know this, and I did research. I collected the data and I gave you guys my top 5. I think it was top 5, and it was happening again with him. I'm seeing the transiting Mars opposite his natal sun, and Mercury and Neptune. Sun is obviously our brightness, our soul, our livelihood, our life, the life source. And when it's conjunct or against Mars, then Mars is the blood spiller, Mars is the killer, Mars is the danger, right? That's why I say don't entertain Mars, don't play with Mars and say, oh, Mars and Venus. No, Mars is the killer, right? So now it was opposite his sun, and with Mercury now, Mercury is the ascendant lord for him. So of course Mars against Mercury, they don't go along. Mercury does not enjoy, Mars does not enjoy Mercury. Mercury is in neutral, but Mars just wants to cause problems for a Mercurian ascendant, right? And on this day we also have his natal Saturn conjunct with a transiting sun, and a transiting Mercury. Now Saturn and Sun together, they can also give a boof situation in terms of physical expression. As I already said, now Saturn is in Aquarius. Sun coming into Saturn's house is not comfortable at all. Like we saw recently when I made a video about who is it? I forgot. Who is this couple? Twitch, DJ Twitch, Steven and his wife as well. Similar thing I saw there. And now very important is that his natal Mars was conjunct the vertex at this time. And vertex is the change of situation. Your life will make a change. So this is the transiting vertex, by the way. This is the 360-degree change of life, and for him it is around Mars, and it is opposite the transiting Sun and transiting Mercury, which is the lord of the ascendant, right? It's quite sad. It's quite sad. And at the same time, I do have the transiting Lilith conjunct with his Venus and Rahu. Venus is spouse, and Lilith is tainted thoughts, shunned upon actions, things that are not supposed to be done. And the transiting one is exactly with Venus and Rahu, as is always the case here. I also have the transiting Mars with his Rahu. As I said 3 days ago, that when Mars and Rahu get together, there is an explosion. There is a huge explosion that will be experienced, right? I have his progressing Venus on this day conjunct with his Moon, which is with Lilith, and the transiting Jupiter, right, making like an explosion on his head. Moon is mind, is the mind area, which is the head, right, and it's with Lilith again. And I have the progressing Venus opposite his Ketu. Now progressing Venus opposite Ketu, conjunct Ketu, is indicating obviously separation. And for him, it was not only his life, it was also separation from spouse. And through spouse, right, he separated with the relationship all together, right? So quite a lot of stuff happening, or that happened on this day. And I also have his progressing Mars, by the way, opposite his Moon and Lilith. Again, Mars harming the Moon, the mind, right? So that's very important to see. I do have his Pluto, transit of Pluto with Uranus, and the transiting Moon on the day. Again, Moon, Pluto, Uranus all together. Death, quickly, mind gone, right? So unfortunate, but it's quite interesting that the same patterns, like, just study the patterns and then you will be able to tell what is going to happen in somebody's life just by knowing the patterns, knowing what goes on, knowing the meanings and all of these things, right? But in any case, thanks for listening. I'll chat to you soon. I'll be in touch.